Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 24 of the podcast, Jump Into Success. Alrighty, let's get going. Alrighty, how are you today? I hope you are well and you survived the big storm. It was pretty bad down here in sunny, well, it wasn't sunny, I can tell you, sunny Somerset. We were literally blown away, and trees over, gardens broken up and smashed, and pots everywhere. It was pretty bad, I have to tell you. I know some places that people are hurt, and really hurt actually, and I think a few people maybe even lost their lives. So I hope you're well and you're able to clean up and get back to normal. Now, those of you who are eagle-eyed or even eagle-eared, I guess, will have noticed that we skipped a week. Two things happened for this reason. The first one was some bright spark was digging up the road and cut through our internet cable, so we were offline. And just as they reconnected it, the storm came and blew everything over again. And it was only yesterday, actually, that the cellular network got switched back on. We've had the power off and on, but it's back on now full time, and I think everything's getting back to normal. So that's why we were missing for a week, and so apologies for that, but it's just one of those things. Sometimes, even in the modern world, things can go wrong. Now then, what have we got for you today? Well, today we are... Oh, actually, before we even get into that, I just wanted to quickly mention, those of you who are regular listeners will recall our large format group coaching project that we were involved with all through last month, the month of November. Really, the whole idea of that was encouraging as many people as possible to really just take a little time and think about what do they want to have happen in 2025. What's the plan for 2025? Because November, the first week in December, maybe even as well, are the best times to set a plan, a goal, an outcome for the following year. Leaving it to January is actually not a great idea, because all of the evidence shows what happens then is people just pick something randomly because they feel they ought to, and yeah, it's kind of, I suppose I ought to do that, but there's no strategy, no plan, and it's not really well formed. So really spending a little time now, planning for the future, is probably a better strategy. And there's a ton of evidence to support this, and there's a couple of articles on the Be Inspired group, not the Be Inspired group, say that again, on the Think Big, the Journal of Personal Development, on the website, if you wanted to look at that. Now, with that in mind, we're going to be integrating that process into our Be Inspired group next year, so watch out for some changes there. We're very excited, and we want to thank every single person who got involved in the large group coaching project, but also those who messaged us in and said they really found it useful and inspiring, and that they set goals for themselves and all of those kind of things. So we really do appreciate all of that feedback. With that in mind, and people often ask us, what are the skills that you need for success in the modern world? And well, I've got lots of different answers, and I'm going to say that I've isolated seven key skills you need for success in the modern world, and actually how are you going to get them as well, because it's easy for me to say, you need to be a great communicator, you need to have coaching skills, you need to be able to manage your state, etc. That's part of the 7 skills. So how do I get them? How do I get these skills? So I'm going to suggest in this podcast, and there's a whole article on this on a website that we published at the beginning of the week. Actually, I will say the reason I've put this in this week's podcast is we published this article, I think, on Monday. And already we've had somebody a few people actually email in to say, wow, they really enjoyed that. And it helped them clarify what skills they already have, but also what maybe is missing, and then develop a strategy for developing the skills. So the 7 skills for success in the modern world, I believe you will get them if you study a quality NLP practitioner, or NLP generally actually, and combine that with coaching skills. NLP and coaching skills, I do think, are the secret combination to success, and we'll explain why in this podcast. So of the 7 skills, the first one, and in many ways the most important one, is to be a great communicator. to have mastered the skill of communicating, to get your point across, to make that presentation with real impact, to have great relationships with, personal, that when people hear you speak, they go, yeah, I really get what you're saying. I feel your passion. I get the idea. I see the plan that you've got. I want to be involved. And in an organizational context, you're able to really communicate in such a way that your team really follow. If you're a team member, that you're able to communicate up and down within the organization. And why we say NLP is useful for this is the NLP communication model specifically really does teach us how a great communication works between humans and how we can enhance that. And there's lots of ideas and models and I don't want to say tricks, but little things that you can do, like noticing somebody's language patterns. Are they visual? Are they auditory? Are they kinesthetic? You really get to notice the language patterns and you repeat that language back to them. It really becomes very, very powerful. And if you think the meta model, you study the meta model, you understand about distortions, deletions, and generalizations. So you ask better questions to get more clarity. If you're in a leadership position, this is obviously going to be very, very useful. Just generally in life, being a great communicator is key to success. Now, the second skill we think you'll get from studying NLP and coaching together, or the skill that you need, is this, I guess what you might call emotional intelligence or state management. I manage my state. I'm able to respond appropriately to situations. I'm in control of myself. I don't fly off the handle at the drop of a hat. I'm solid. I'm grounded. The self-awareness that I've developed about who I am and where I want to go and what I want to be involved with. And that sort of self-awareness leads to a kind of self-confidence. And then when you do speak, and you are in a situation with other people, you have that sort of authentic spark. People really get, this is a real person. And they're solid and balanced and grounded, and they really are somebody you want to spend time with. And it's not just exhausting. It's not exhausting. It's life enriching in actual fact. Now, the third skill that I think is useful in the modern world is to have a coaching mindset. A coaching mindset. And what we mean by a coaching mindset is that rather, especially if you're in an organization, this command and control, you use the coaching tools, models, and framework as your methodology for leadership or indeed management. But it goes beyond that. Coaching mindset, if you're part of a team, you're solution orientated, you're figuring out how you're empowering other people. It's a different way of working. You're asking those key questions to enable people. And even in personal relationships, you get that coaching approach to solving problems. I think it's very, very powerful and very, very useful in pretty much every situation that you can think of. Now, which leads us on to the next thing, which is the fourth skill that I think is super, super important for success in the modern world. And again, this definitely comes from NLP and using coaching frameworks, is this outcome-focused attitude. This outcome-focused attitude, or solution-focused, is how it's often referred to. And the ability to set not just goals, but well-formed outcomes. Or as we often say here at UKCPD, we can go beyond that with well-formed futures. There's a strategic plan for a long term. It's not just short term. It's great to set short-term goals, and they're very powerful. But they're all linked. These short goals are linked to a longer-term outcome, a longer-term, I guess, development of a strategy about where you want to go, where you want to be, who you want to be with, where you want to be living, the work you want to be involved with, etc., etc. This notion of well-formed futures. And so the well-formed secret sauce, if you will, from NLP and setting goals is being super specific about what it is that you want. As I often say, the one sentence version, and that your outcome is definitely achievable. It's ecological. It's sound. You know what it will look like, feel like, and what will I see, hear, and feel? The sensory specific evidence. And it's aligned with an organizational value, if that's what it is. So this notion of setting well-formed outcomes. And when you use that sort of mindset, that methodology, and I've talked on lots of other podcasts and certainly lots of articles on the website about the recipe for well-formed outcomes, you fit that with the coaching framework or coaching models, it's a recipe for real success. It really, really is. Okay, so moving on, we come to point 5. Another key skill is to manage change with NLP and indeed coaching. And when we say manage change, we really do mean that, be it in your personal life or indeed, within an organizational context. Now, it used to be said that the main things that you could guarantee in life were death and taxes. I'm inclined to say yes, they probably still do exist, but there's a third one that's omnipresent in our culture, which is change. Lots and lots and lots of change. Sometimes change which is out of our control, and sometimes seems so enormous and almost unfathomable, with AI and other things that are going on in the world of technology and indeed social sciences. You just think, what's really going on here? So it can almost seem out of our control. So managing personal change or change within an organization using NLP and indeed coaching frameworks can be very, very useful. I'm going to give you two examples. The first one is my go-to favorite model, which comes from Robert Dilts, which is logical levels of change, or just logical levels, sometimes referred to as neurological levels. It depends on your point of view there. But really, this just gives you different levels, from environment right up to vision, of where you might want to focus attention. Or indeed, as you hear people explain what the problem state is, or the problem within an organization, is you can usually figure out where exactly the problem is and where to target maybe some coaching work or training and development. Another very, very useful model that I use quite a lot as well is the SCORE model. Symptoms, causes, outcomes, resources and effects. And using that in a sort of a coaching framework really, really, really does make a massive difference when you're trying to create positive change or manage change that's happening around you. And again, I would say that's within either an organizational context or indeed a personal context. So now moving on to number 6, the 6 skills that you need to be successful in the modern world is the ability to build rapportful relationships. We live in a very complex world. Different kinds of, some relationships are online, some are obviously face-to-face, teams are networked around the world and so on. So this idea of being able to build rapportful relationships are super important. And so how you do that? So once again, NLP comes to the rescue here with some really powerful ideas around creating rapport. Noticing language patterns as an example, and mirroring and matching, all of those kind of things, and a lot more, which on this short podcast I can't really go into, but suffice to say the rapport part of the communication model is a science in and of itself, and is super, super powerful. So, good, strong rapport, if you're in an organization, leads to great teamwork. If it's a one-to-one personal relationship, guess what? It's deeper, and more meaningful. And then finally we get to 7. Probably one of the topics that I've spoken about the most, either on this podcast or on our videos that we do, or even on the sort of main training programs that we run, because I think it's one of the fundamental building blocks of actually personal happiness. And this notion of developing a personal philosophy for success. This idea that you can have a belief system, a philosophical approach to life, that is, success is the default belief that's going to happen, one way or another. And the best way I have found in the many, many years that I have been around and involved in the human potential movement is the building blocks of great personal philosophy for success are the presuppositions of NLP. These are super, super powerful, and sometimes, seem so simple and almost ironic, but actually, once you understand what's really going on within the sentence that we would use to pronounce one, as it were, the statements of fact, or principle, or belief system, once you really understand how they fit into a belief system and a philosophy, they become super, super powerful. But more importantly, as well as being super powerful, they become super enabling. They become enabling. So the first one, I just got to pull a few out here. There's no such thing as failure. There is only feedback. Now, if you genuinely believe and operate out of that principle, guess what's going to happen? Rather, when things go wrong, which they will, rather than going, there you go again, another disaster, another failure. No. That kind of thinking is, a negative mindset. It goes down a spiral of despair. Okay, things didn't quite work out as we had planned. However, what's the feedback? How can we change, tweak, develop, enhance our strategy so that we get more success next time round. So the old saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Yes, that's great as an idea, but I really want to change that and enhance it. If at first you don't succeed, try again, but try differently. Try differently. Try a different thing. But you never give up. Never, ever, ever give up. Another one that might be worth looking at, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always had. Now, once again, seems very kind of, what? Yeah. However, how many people, if we're honest about this, continue to behave and think the exact same way and yet have this frustration in their life or in their team or organization? Because they're carrying on the same strategies, the same way of thinking, the same way of behaving. If you want something different in your life, you've got to do something different, and that includes changing your attitude and your thinking. Where attention goes, energy flows. What I focus on, I'm going to get more of. If I just focus on my problem state, guess what? I'm going to get more of that problem state. I really ought to think about the solution. What would I rather have? What would that look like? What's the first step? Who can I get to help me? What's the key resource? And so on and so on and so on. And those coaching type questions combined with this philosophical understanding of success really does make a big, big difference. Now, in this article I've mentioned already on the website, we've got a few more, and you can go and look at that at your leisure. But the point here is, once you apply, and I'm passionate about this because it worked for me. It worked for me. I've said many, many times, there's no special skill that I came out of school with, because I did not. I did not. But once I understood these principles, it was a game changer. Absolute game changer. So rather than difficulty, I saw opportunity. Rather than I have failed, which many times I did, so-called failed, but rather than focusing on the failure, I trained myself, based on these ideas, to, okay, what can we do differently? And when I worked in optics many, many, many years ago, the biggest optician group in the country, this is one of the key things that helped me and the rest of the management team change the direction of the business so it became, multi-million pound organisation. We never focused on the negative, the negative things that had happened, and plenty of things did go wrong, of course. What can we learn from this? What's the next step? How can we, and so on and so on. And that really, really did make a big, big difference. Now, linked to that, this notion of the philosophy for success, there's the 4 pillars of success. It's often referred to as the 4 pillars of NLP, but I call it the 4 pillars of success. And they're kind of embedded in all of the things I've already said today. Rapport, the ability to build trust and alignment within an organization, within yourself. Being out of rapport with yourself is one of the many causes frustration and anger and drug abuse and alcohol abuse and all of those other kind of things. Poor personal relationships. I'm out of rapport with myself. I'm unhappy with who I am. Hence, the promise of personal development, you can be a better person. So rapport, outcome focus, prioritizing clear goals. This is where we are, but where do we want to go? The third one is acuity. Acuity, really sharpening our observational skills so we see what's really there. We see what's really there. We don't project past problems, past prejudice, past experience onto an opportunity. And then finally, flexibility. Having the skill and actually the wisdom to try different ways and to tack across issues and headwinds rather than going head first and it didn't work. Because that kind of head first thing, it didn't work, is not going to help. So the 4 pillars are rapport, outcome focused thinking, sense of acuity, and definitely flexibility. Now, if you internalize the principles that I've already mentioned, and all 7 things, if you learn them, I will pretty much say you're going to have more success in life. And as I've said before, it worked for me, and I definitely believe it will work for you. Now, on our website, UKCPD.co.uk, there is tons and tons and tons of free to access personal development, videos, articles, a couple of courses, the Be Inspired group. We genuinely want to help people build a better success for themselves, for their business, maybe for their families, maybe a community project that you work in. Just go onto the website and see how much stuff there is to help you. We're really committed to this, and all through 2025 We're going to be doing more and more things to help communities and individuals get out of that negative mindset, because if you just obsess with the 10 o'clock news, you are going to get into a negative mindset. But that's not what we're going to do. We're going to thrive in 2025. That's going to be the slogan of the Be Inspired group. So, be sure to join that. Okay, that's what I've got for you this week. Apologies again for missing a week. It was out of our control to a certain extent. And again, I'll apologise for my coughing and choking. It's just one of those things. I seem to have this perpetual cold at the moment. But I'm sure I'll be better in no time. So guys, take care of yourselves, and I will catch you on the next podcast. Till then, keep on smiling. And if I don't speak to you beforehand, have a great Christmas, and wishing you a very successful and joyous New Year. Bye for now.